Alberts. I am a business strategist from Calgary, Alberta, and we are kind of really just enjoying our first freezing days of the year. So it's probably good that I'm sitting inside, nice and cozy and warm, and getting ready to talk to today's guest, Larry Young of Total Containment. Larry, thank you for joining me today, and how are you?
I'm great. Thanks very much for inviting me on, Jade. I've been watching your show for a while and been wanting to get on here.
Well, I know, we talk about getting on here and meeting, and obviously we met through LinkedIn, and you mentioned that we should meet for lunch at probably one of my favorite restaurants, Hayden Block in Kensington, and we got some smoked meat and some bacon mac and cheese and cornbread.
Yeah, it was a great lunch. I've been back twice since.
Have you?
Yeah.
Oh,
that was awesome.
I know we're going to have a little Christmas get together there. I love going to Hayden Block. It is literally one of my favorite restaurants.
Oh, no doubt. Well, I had never been there before we were there, and I go there quite often. I'm in Calgary every week. So 2 weeks ago, actually, I was up there for 3 days, and for 2 of those 3 days, I had my lunch there.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was pretty awesome.
It is a good restaurant.
The smoked meat and the cornbread is just off the charts.
Oh, no, it's so fantastic. Good. It's so good.
Right on.
Well, here, I'll give a little introduction to Larry, and then we'll get at her here. Larry is the founder and CEO of Total Containment Inc. in Edmonton, Alberta, and creator of the Envirolock pipe leak containment system for oil pipelines. Larry moved to Alberta in 2013, much less same reason as all Easterners moved to Alberta, is for the opportunity. Entering the oil and gas soon after arriving, Larry learned the skills he would need to develop this product. Given the state of oil pipelines in Canada, the Envirolock system could be the answer we have all been waiting for when it comes to the pipelines and their impact on the environment. Total Containment Inc. and the Envirolock have been selected from more than 2,000 companies to participate in Creative Destruction Lab's 2020 cohort in Calgary. With partnerships like the University of Calgary, the Indian Resource Council, Total Containment Inc. is well on its way to helping Alberta get back on its feet. And I know when we met and we've talked and you showed me, and I was just flabbergasted at the technology, and I don't even know how how this has been adopted. It's such a hot topic. So, I mean, it seems like you've solved this problem. So explain how you decided to take on this issue and exactly what your product does for our listeners.
Okay. Well, back in 2013, when I first got here, I got into oil and gas for the first time, and I got into corrosion and secondary containment, tank linings, that kind of thing. And it came across my desk, directive from the AER, that's called the Directive 55, and it's secondary containment systems being they're an absolute must now on storage facilities, any kind of a petroleum area. It has to be secondary contained. So I took those properties and applied it to a pipeline. Because pipelines are so important to Alberta and Canada, it might be a little hot topic here, but regardless of what people might think about pipelines, they're very safe. We don't hear about leaks often, but when we do hear about them, they're quite devastating. So that's the motivation behind building this system. And it is remarkable that something like this hasn't been used before. But our system completely contains a leak in a pipeline, and it really doesn't make a difference what size leak takes place. The small ones, the big ones, anything short of a catastrophic failure should be contained inside our system. So when I first got into oil and gas, it was more getting used to how to apply this kind of a system and understanding all the policies and regulations that are involved. It's a very heavy regulated industry. And in order to get some kind of a product in there that can impact this, our leaks in pipelines to protect the environment, there's a lot of bells and whistles that you have to go through and hurdles to get over. There's a lot of things that have to be done. And in order to do that, we had to have collaboration with government. We got help from Alberta Innovates, NRC IRAP. All our testing has been done at C4 Labs in Edmonton, which is the premier testing facility in Alberta for new systems going to oil and gas. So to get to what our system does, It completely encompasses a pipeline inside an impenetrable barrier. So when a leak happens, it's not blasting out into the environment. It's kept inside the pipeline trench that's holding the containment system. Imagine a sleeve for a pipe that is offset from the pipe by about 2 feet. So that space in between the liner and the pipe is as a buffer zone. There's an immense amount of pressure in those pipelines. So when a leak happens, the pressure that comes out of that behind the leak is immense, and it cuts through. It's enough to cut your fingers off if the leak was tight enough. Just before it turns to mist is the worst diameter kind of thing. In any case, we had to prove that our system was able to contain the leak, stop the leak, and improve leak detection system. Because leak detection, monumental leaps in technology. Fiber optic leak detection systems are fantastic. They're great products and they're absolutely needed. But detection isn't enough anymore. We can detect these leaks and we can ensure we know about them. But when a leak happens and that alarm goes off, that's basically telling us that damage is happening to the environment, and we have to find a way to mitigate that impact if we're going to hope to build pipelines. And again, regardless of what people might think, we're going to need pipelines and oil and gas for quite some time. We all see the problems with renewables and getting them to the point where they can take over for fossil fuels, and that's going to happen at some point. We're just not there yet, and until we get there, we have to be able to protect the environment from leaks and pipelines. So the containment system is installed around a pipeline before the pipe gets in the trench. The trench is dug. Our liner goes in the trench. Some backfill is put on top of the containment system on the bottom of the trench, and a pipeline is laid on top of that. And more backfill is put on top of the pipe, and the sides are closed over it. And our system is made from a spray. It's made from polyurea, which is a really, really strong product, but remains flexible and isn't impacted by temperatures and weather and that kind of thing. The environments that pipelines sit in are the reason for corrosion. I mean, there's water, there's groundwater, there's table water, there's frost. All those things can impact the pipeline. And our containment system protects the pipeline from all that stuff. Inside the containment system, imagine the pipeline is in the middle here, completely contained and encompassed by the containment system. A leak happens. It happens inside the containment system. It blasts against the side of the wall of the containment system and then back around the pipe. At the bottom of the containment system, at the bottom of the trench, I apologize if this is confusing. I should have put a picture up here. But at the very bottom of the trench, all that, I mean, we all know gravity works quite fantastically. So the leak travels down to the bottom of the trench where our sensors are waiting, and the sensors are embedded right into the containment system itself. So it matters not where the leak happens, how much it leaks, or it just doesn't matter where the leak happens. It can get detected almost instantly. We know which direction it's going in. We know how fast it's moving. And the containment system forces that leak to remain in the trench so it hits the detection sensors very, very quickly. I'm sure we're all aware of the Husky leak that happened in 2016 that contaminated the drinking water for 3 communities. That kind of thing is what devastates our industry and getting pipelines built. There's no question we have to deal with this problem, and that's what the Envirolock system is. I apologize for jumping around. I'm trying to get so many things in here in a short time that sometimes I end up bouncing around. But there's nothing out there that can protect the environment from a leak. And leak detection, I know I'm back on this, but I can't stress it enough. How leak detection systems are an intricate part of pipelines, but we need to take that further. And that's the containment system. It's the only step really that remains. We have everything available to detect and protect against the leak getting out. But once that leak gets past the coating, it's all bets are off. And that's what our containment system is there for. On top of the environmental impacts, the pipeline itself is protected from the environment. When I say that, I mean corrosion. Water doesn't get next to the pipeline inside the containment system. And that's a huge bonus for producers and anyone that owns a pipeline. Water is the problem. It gets underneath the coatings, erodes the steel of the pipe, and it causes a corrosive leak, which is can happen at any point in time and for any number of reasons. With our system installed, it defends against all these, and all aspects of environmental impact are mitigated with this product. So to get to our partners and such, excuse me, the Indian Resource Council has been a part of this for about a year now. Steve Saddleback, Steve Buffalo, in Calgary, they both love the product, and they realize that something, new measures have to be taken in order, if we're going to get pipelines built and get this industry back to where it needs to be for the betterment of Canada and all of the world. Our energy is the most responsibly developed product on the planet. Nobody has our environmental standards, and this is just another step to increase that and set more standards for the rest of the world. And the Indian Resource Council plays an intricate part in that. As we're all aware, First Nations, Indigenous folks like to buy the Trans Mountain Pipeline, or a portion of it, or a percentage of it, what have you. And I think that's a fantastic thing, because it puts the power into the First Nations hands and Indigenous people's hands, and they're no longer, they're taking an active part in their futures and for the future generations. And having ownership on infrastructure like this is really sets a new standard for the world. It's time to start taking them seriously and giving them the responsibilities and that they've been craving. No one wants to get handouts and constantly be handed out. Here, you're supposed to deal with this amount of money. Or let people earn a living, and that's what's happening in all of Alberta. There's so many people unemployed here. If we can get these things built, get these pipelines built, get our production up, these guys and women can go back to work, and Alberta can get back to the top of the food chain again, and not have to rely on other on other industries. And I mean, yeah, we're pretty. We have agriculture. We have all kinds of other things going on here in Alberta. But oil and gas is our breadwinner. That's our money maker, and all of Canada benefits from that. And we need to get Alberta back on track again.
No, I agree. I absolutely agree with that statement. I mean, and when you start thinking about, I'm talking with Larry Young here of Total Containment and his Envirolock system. If you want to go to the website and see what he was describing there, you can just click on it in the comment section, and it'll take you right there. And I know when you're building something like this, as you were talking about Stephen in Buffalo and those guys, I went to school with him in Notre Dame. I mean, obviously it's a global, but you've got a lot of support from government grants, ACAMP. How did you, come across these partnerships and get them to buy in and help you?
Well, I mean, when you start any project like this, because I don't have a 20-year relationship, building career in oil and gas in Alberta, it's difficult to get something like this out when you don't have those, you don't have that foundation. So you have to look for creative ways to find money, and there are many government grants out there for every level and every stage of an entrepreneur's goals and stages. And in order to get access to those funds and the support, all it takes is just to reach out. They're more than willing to help. You just have to be a little innovative when it comes to looking for ways to get funding. We've raised, in the last 3 years, we've raised and spent on more than $1 million developing this product. And for someone like me that comes from New Brunswick and new to the industry, new to the province, to be able to find that kind of support, that in itself is validation for what this product can do. I'm not an engineer. I'm not, like I said, I haven't been in the industry for 100 years. I don't have the relationship. So it was a little bit more challenging than it probably needed to be. But through those challenges, we developed a product that is sound, and it really can do what we're claiming. And we can keep leaks from reaching the environment. And if they can't reach the environment, they can't impact the environment. And Bill C-69, we all know, is the No More Pipelines bill. This is a way of mitigating most of those requirements on that bill, because again, if a leak can't get out of the trench, it can impact the environment, and that's one of the biggest keys. Now, the government, be it Alberta Innovates, NRC IRAP, Innovate Calgary, or any of a number of economic development funding locations, they're all willing to help. And if they can't give you the grants that they want or that you need, they'll send you to someone who can help you. It's a slow process. I mean, this is the government we're talking about here, so nothing moves very quickly. But you can, with persistence and resilience, you can get the things that you need to get. The CDL, the Creative Destruction Labs cohort, that has been a fantastic medium for us to get introduced to industry, investors, producers, people in the industry, and they've really taken to the project quite well. There's a lot of interest in the thing because it can do what I claim it does. And we have the proof. We've tested this, and we've tried to damage it. We've tried to blow it off a pipe. We've tried to do all kinds of things. And the system is more than capable of doing what needs to be done. We've tested it with a direct hit from a leak that simulated a leak in a corrosive environment in a pipeline of 2,000 psi. Now, that's enough to cut the fingers off your hand, and it couldn't penetrate the system. So there's no shortage of hurdles for sure, but use those government funding. Use the government funding, the resources that are available. They're available for all Canadians. You don't have to have $1 million sitting in the bank in order to get access to these things. You just have to have the drive and initiative to make that happen.
No, absolutely. And I know there's a lot of these grants available, and I've sat down and connected a lot of people with grants because they are very important. And actually you can access more money from these grants as well. People will lend against them. And which again, like you said, you spent $1 million and it's probably going to take a little bit more. But again, sure, wherever you're able to find money, you better are. But I mean, you've been getting a lot of play lately on your leak prevention system, and you even came second at an innovation contest to Amanda Hall, and she's been on this show, and she has a great product as well. So I get congrats on that. But my question is, and I don't want to be hard on some of these companies or have you say negative things on them, but why have they not implemented your leak prevention system?
Well, I think the answer to that is, and again, I'm not same as you. I'm not trying to, hate on the industry or what have you. But once the system is used and the benefits are made known publicly, and the fact that we can contain these leaks, the cost is going to be substantial for these guys because it's. Why wouldn't you put this on every pipeline? And again, I don't mean that this needs to be installed on the entirety of a pipeline. This thing is designed to fit on, I mean, it certainly can go on the entirety of a pipeline, and the cost isn't even that great. I can install our system on the Trans Mountain pipeline, the entirety of the whole pipeline, for about 10, maybe a little less than 10% of what that pipeline costs to manufacture and install. Now, that's a fantastic insurance policy, but if you multiply that by the amount of pipelines that we have in Alberta and Canada and US, that's a ridiculous amount of money because it can be installed on existing pipelines. And our pipelines in Alberta are at the stage now, I mean, they're 60 plus years old, much of it. And it's going to, potentially have some problems. Our system can arrest corrosion and protect against those leaks getting out into the environment. Once that becomes known that there's something out there that can handle this issue and protect the environment, I assume there will be a lot of calls for it being used on existing pipelines, and it's the cost in the end that I think is creating the hurdles for industry. We've tested it. We've done all the regulation. We've met with the AER. The AER loves the product. They're giving us a letter of support. Certainly not endorsing our product, but they just don't do that kind of thing. But they're giving us a letter of support because it can do the job. We presented this, my partner Eric Thompson and I, for the last 3 years, been trying to get this out and do our product demonstration, which is happening first quarter of 2020, thanks to CDL and some other people. And when that demonstration happens, when we get that information out there, it should be a huge wake-up call for industry. And again, I don't mean this as they're not doing anything, because Canadian industry is head and shoulders above the rest of the world when it comes to innovative responses and answers to these problems. Yeah. They're willing to take on new technology to handle these issues. There's no question that the industry dumps billions of dollars into this stuff. But our system takes all of those things to a new level. Containment has never been I mean, it's never been really considered on pipelines because it's such a corrosive environment. And most things that will be in that environment are going to deteriorate and break down very quickly. So a lot of the questions that industry would have about access to pipeline after it's installed, longevity, things like that, we have answers for all that stuff. It's just getting in to see these guys and having them take it seriously. Our system will last, excuse me, our system will last 70 plus years in the ground. Now, that's an entire life cycle of a pipeline. If it's damaged, it's so easy to repair that there's only a one-day certification that's required for anyone that's going to manufacture or to install this product. I've got a group of people out there excavating a pipe to look at it for maintenance or inspection or what have you. 15% of leaks, from what I can see, 15% of leaks happen from strikes from equipment when they're excavating, and they don't know the pipes there. Our system protects against that as well, because when they're digging, they have to come into contact with the containment system before they get to the pipe. And that the containment system is resilient enough to cause enough issues with the bucket that they're excavating with to slow it down, to make them to have them look at the area, realize that they're only about 2 feet away from the pipe, and it's time to change methods when it comes to excavating the rest of the pipe. So I think it's issues like that, and having industry incorporate it and use it for, a lot of pipelines that are coming to the end of their life cycle, and to really step up the environmental impact and the environmental protection. But I think after some time, and once we get this on a pipeline and the industry and people get to see that, something is in place that can protect the environment, not just the pipeline, but protect the environment from those impacts, perhaps it will be easier for people to accept pipelines being built if it incorporates this system. Like I said, we can install it on the entirety of a pipeline, but our intent is to install it on the high consequence areas, like near water, aquifers, homes, farms, those kinds of things. Things where if a leak happens, it's going to have, a lot of impact, not just, got to be cleaned up.
Yeah.
And cleanup itself, when a leak happens inside the containment system is just cut open, and it opens up to the inside of the containment area, which has the pipe and contaminated oil in the soil. It's just a matter of vacuuming that material out, making the repairs to the pipeline, putting in new backfill, and then closing the system back up again. The system can be opened and closed as often as is necessary for maintenance, inspection, things like that. It has a specific cathodic protection system that was designed by Corpro. We just have the best people handling these areas. We've considered, I can't imagine that we haven't considered an issue that we could come across. The system is viable. It's expensive, but it's not too expensive. We can install this on an entire kilometer of pipeline, 36-inch pipeline, for about $250,000 a kilometer. When you're thinking about a kilometer of pipeline, that same kilometer can cost between $2 million and $8 million just to have the pipeline installed, depending on the environment that it's in, the terrain, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So our system, again, it's at best 10% increase on what it costs to build a pipeline. And that's only if it's used on the entirety of a pipeline. So there are ways to mitigate the cost. With further testing, we could perhaps bring the system closer to the pipeline, reduce the thickness of the coatings, all kinds of things we can do with it. But the way we designed it right now is capable of doing the work and ensuring that those leaks don't get out of the environment, don't get out of the trench and into the environment.
Yeah, and what is really 10% when it comes down to the pipeline not being built? So, I mean, it seems to be, right?
That's what it comes down to, Jade. I mean, it's either you build it and put a containment system on it,
or it doesn't get built at all. Yeah, I mean,
that's where we're heading.
Yeah, and I mean, and you've kind of answered my next question when I was going to ask, well, what was next, when you said you're obviously going for this testing, and there might be some things that you might be able to tweak with the product through some more testing. So is there anything, I guess maybe after, you kind of have to wait till this testing is done and get the letter of recommendation from AER, and then kind of be able to present this out there. So
that's right. And we have the demonstration is happening end of January, February. We already have 4 producers going to be there. The AER is going to be in presence. Members of the University of Calgary who we're partners with, and have incorporated their sensor into our containment system. It's a University of Calgary designed and proven leak detection system that's going inside the containment system. It's an option. It's not the only thing that can be used. Other forms of leak detection can be used as well. But the system that we're using with the University of Calgary, we can embed that right into the wall of the containment system, spray it right in so that it's a part of it. The cathodic protection system just connects to existing cathodic protection systems. There's no hurdles that way. And we're working on a design to use the system under crossings. It can be installed in almost any environment. Polyurea is a very resilient product. To give you an idea what it is, a similar product to what's sprayed in the back of your truck bed liner, except it remains flexible, can be installed in -40 and still have the same results as if it were a 10-degree day. So there's no environmental damage from the product. It doesn't hurt the environment. There's no VOCs. The liner is sprayed and completely quality controlled offsite in our warehouse. So when it gets to site, we know it's in 100% perfect shape, and a minimal amount of work is required on site to install the system. And it shouldn't impact pipeline installation schedules at all, because our system goes in before they put their pipe in.
Nice.
So it's really quite a comprehensive answer.
No, I mean, and I'm looking forward to, and we'll probably have to have an update episode to see
Absolutely.
how that testing went.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I'll have some video from that demonstration as well, that maybe we can show.
I mean, you
show the people.
Get that to me, and I'll post it up there, even on my social LinkedIn and
right on.
and so forth. But I know, I mean, my last question I always ask, and you've kind of, I mean, you came to Alberta, you didn't know much about an industry, you create a product that could be game changing for pipelines around the world. Obviously, you've done it through grants, through great partnerships. But if you had really one piece of advice for a startup entrepreneur or a small business, Larry, what would it be?
That's a tough question, because there are so many things that you have to really have a good grip on. But the one thing that stands out, and that I've been told from many different people that I've spoken with, is you have to believe in your product. If that passion, if that doesn't come through when you're explaining this thing and to make people understand it, and you see it, I'm bouncing around all over the place talking about 16 different aspects of it, it's because I have so much information in my mind that I want to get out. But this thing works, and it will be able to do the work that I'm claiming. And if we can keep those leaks from getting into the environment, we can build pipelines more safely and get pipelines built for this province and this country, because we need pipelines. There's no question about that. Everybody knows it. If we can't get our product to market, to other markets, then we definitely have to at least have the capability to build these things, to get them out, to get them to markets in Asia and Europe, those things. It's a gold mine waiting for this country, and we can do it more responsibly now than we ever have.
No, I agree, and I'd like to thank Jennifer Rolls for her comment here, saying definitely interested in an update on the progress. So people are already anxiously waiting for an update here when your test does happen. But I mean, like you said, I know, Larry, we were listening to you, when we had our lunch and talking now. I mean, the passion that you have for this product, is second to none. And I mean, that is true. If you don't believe in your product,
that's it.
I mean,
that's the single biggest thing, Jade. If you don't have confidence in what you've created, how do you expect someone else to do it?
No, absolutely.
Have that confidence.
Absolutely.
You can't.
No.
So that's the single biggest thing. If you've created something, believe in what you've done, and make sure that comes across when you explain about it.
No, I agree. And you know what, Larry, I really appreciate you coming on today. And I've been excited about having this conversation with you for so long, because it's such a touchy subject. I've got many friends, and the industry in Alberta, really needs something to give it that boost to say, hey, there's nothing stopping us now.
No, absolutely. And that's where it's at.
Yeah.
We're ready to install this. We can install this system next week. We know it works. We've tested. We've spent so much time and money testing to make sure this thing works, and the install process, all that stuff. We're ready, and we need to find a partner in the industry that can help us take this to market, and then watch us go. Because once we start to show how this thing works, people are going to demand that it be used.
And that's perfect. And again, thank you again, Larry, for coming on, sharing your story, talking about it. If anybody wants to go to their website, it's totalcontainment.ca. Go to the comment section. Just click on the link there. It'll take you right to there. If you have any questions for Larry or myself, you can contact him directly through there.
Absolutely.
Or if you're watching this after the fact on any social media, put a comment in there and we'll make sure that it gets answered. So again, thank you, Larry, very much. And I appreciate your time today.
Right on. Well, thanks very much for the opportunity, Jade. I appreciate it. I love talking about this thing. So as you said, if anybody wants to discuss it, give me a shout and we'll have a chat about it. And I'll make sure you understand it when we're done.
Perfect. All right, Larry, have a great day. And I hope everybody
thank you very much, Jade.
You're very welcome. Hope everybody tunes in next week. I'm excited about that too, because it's the 100th episode. So I'm pumped about that. So
yeah, that's a big one.
All right, Larry, have a great day.
Well, thanks very much.
You betcha. Bye-bye.